Part 6, and the question is that Part 6 stand part.
Mr. Chairman.
I call Ian Lees-Galloway.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Part 6 is, in fact, the part of the Veterans Support Bill that deals with the issue of veterans' pensions and lump sum payments. And this is the matter which has been canvassed by members for much of the evening, particularly by the Honourable Phil Goff, who has amendments that he has proposed to this part of the legislation. And it's a pretty simple thing, sir, that in the Labour opposition, we wanted to follow the desires of the RSA and other veterans groups to ensure that all veterans would be entitled to a veterans pension, that would be something that was universally available to everybody who has served our country overseas in a conflict or peacekeeping situation. And it's fair to say that it wasn't a big ask of the government. It was $7.4 million a year is what it's anticipated to cost, and that's actually only the anticipated cost for the first year. It's an unusual provision in that as time goes on, the costs actually reduce. Usually when you introduce a new provision like this, the out years are more expensive than the initial year. This is the exact opposite. So not a difficult thing for the government to adopt. And in fact, after a lot of advocacy from the Honourable Phil Goff, the government finally relented, almost relented entirely, and supported everything that Phil Goff asked for, except for one thing, and that is the provision for lump sum payments. And the argument that the government is using is that it will not be the veterans themselves who benefit from lump sum payments, but their families. And we on this side of the House say that veterans' families have made a significant sacrifice themselves, a different type of sacrifice than a veteran who actually goes and serves and sees conflict and faces battle alongside their comrades. True, it is a different type of sacrifice, but it is nevertheless a significant sacrifice for a family to have one of their own, often the breadwinner, go overseas and come home with all the impacts of seeing conflict. And we particularly think about our older veterans who served in the Second World War, who served in Korea, who served in Vietnam, who served in Malaya, who saw, just as our recent veterans in Afghanistan and Timor and the Solomons saw very real conflict and very real danger and things that were traumatic and things that obviously put their lives at risk. And we simply want to acknowledge their sacrifice and also the sacrifice of their families in sending a loved one overseas and giving up their time with them, but also sometimes having to be there, or more often than not, be there for that family member when they come back home again. So we think it's absolutely appropriate that both veterans and their families should have the opportunity to be acknowledged. And we agree with the comment made by Melissa Lee. I think that nobody goes overseas to serve our nation because they expect to get a pension out of it. That's not the reason they go. Of course it's not the reason that they go. But it is a way in which we can acknowledge the sacrifice that they have made, because I think Melissa Lee talked about a spirit of adventure. Well, sometimes people did go with a spirit of adventure and then found that it was something a lot more than that when they actually got into the conflict zone. And I think what actually drove most of our veterans to participate and serve their nation was a sense that what they were doing was absolutely right. It was what their nation had called on them to do. They were doing it because they believed that it was in our country's interests. They believed that it was in the interests of the people who live in the nations that they went and served in, and absolutely in the case of the Korean conflict, and I've been to Korea myself on a parliamentary delegation, and there's no doubt that the people of Korea absolutely appreciate the work and the sacrifice that was put in by New Zealand veterans over there. And they did it because, Mr Chairman, they did it because they believed in our security, in our region's security, and supporting, ultimately, peace in our region and around the world by confronting aggressive actions from other nations. And that's why they do it. We appreciate that. But there's still nothing wrong with us as a nation saying we want to acknowledge that with some additional support that goes to those people who serve us and to their families as well. And it really is now at the point of absolute penny pinching that the government has refused to take this final step. And whether it's actually how much would it be? It's 7.4 million annually. That's what they've agreed to, and the lump sum payments would add. That's what the lump sum payments is. It's the value of the lump sum payments. So it's really a tiny amount of money in the scheme of government expenditure, and it just kind of feels like the government just doesn't want to do the whole thing that the opposition asked them to do. That's basically what it comes down to. It wasn't their idea, it was the opposition's idea, it was Phil Goff's idea, and they don't want to do it because it was Labour that proposed it, and they've come some of the way but not the whole way, and it's a shame. It is simply a shame. And I know that when we go and visit RSAs around our electorates and around the country, and when we talk to other veterans groups, this is on their minds, and it's what they talk about. It's the first thing that they talk to us about, and it would have been a simple thing for the government to agree to, and it's just a shame that they haven't been prepared to do that. But sir, on this side of the House, we will continue to fight for those veterans, and they can be assured that should there be the inevitable change that is coming in September this year, then there will be a better deal for veterans under a Labour-led government.
That's right.
I call David Shearer.
Mr Chair, look, I just want to take a quick call on this because this is the critical point of difference. There is an